At my father's funeral, my stepbrother announced he was selling the family business. You were never really part of this family anyway. Everyone nodded. I didn't argue. I just pulled out my phone and played a recording. His smile disappeared, and his wife started screaming. I'm selling the business, Derek said. My stepbrother, standing at my father's funeral reception with a wine glass in his hand and a smile on his face. My father had been dead for 4 hours. The funeral home smelled like lilies and carpet cleaner. 60 people in dark suits and black dresses. My father's employees, his business partners, friends from 30 years of building something from nothing. Derek stood next to the buffet table, the one with the finger sandwiches nobody was eating and the coffee nobody was drinking, like he was at a networking event. The offer's on the table, $2.5 million cash. I'm accepting it Monday morning. My Aunt Linda touched his arm. Derek, maybe now isn't the time. It's the perfect time. Everyone's here. He looked directly at me across the room. Especially him, me, standing by the photo display my father's secretary had put together. 43 years of Richard Morrison's life in frames. Him and my mother on their wedding day. Me as a kid in his workshop. The day we opened the new facility. The charity golf tournament last year. Jake was never really part of this family anyway, Derek said, loud enough that the entire room could hear. Dad felt sorry for him after his mom died. That's why he kept him around. Heads turned. People looked at me, then quickly looked away. My stepmother Carol nodded from her position near the casket spray. It's true, Jake. Your father loved you, but he didn't think you had what it took to run the company. He told me that himself. My throat tightened. My father had built Morrison Manufacturing from nothing. 30 years. Machine parts for industrial equipment. Started in our garage when I was 6 years old. I'd grown up breathing metal shavings and machine oil. He'd promised it to me. Actually ran the business, I'd heard him say 100 times. Not just some MBA who thinks he knows everything. But 6 years ago, he'd married Carol. She brought Derek. Everything changed. The lawyers are handling everything, Derek continued, walking slowly through the crowd like he was giving a presentation. Dad's will was very clear. The business goes to me. The house in Presidio Heights goes to Mom. Jake gets whatever's left after expenses and debts. A few people laughed. Uncomfortable laughter. But they laughed. My hands started shaking. I wanted to scream. To tell everyone what Derek really was. What he'd done. But I just stood there. Nothing to say? Derek was walking toward me now. Wine glass raised. That's what I thought. You always were the quiet type. Never had Dad's vision. His drive. Carol smiled from across the room. Cold. Victorious. Maybe it's time you moved on, Jake. Stopped living off your father's success and made something of yourself. Living off his success. I'd worked at Morrison Manufacturing since I was 16. Swept floors after school. Learned every machine. Worked weekends. Summers. Worked my way up from shop floor to operations manager. 26 years old, and I knew that business inside and out. Derek had shown up 2 years ago. 29. Fresh out of Stanford Business School. Had never touched a machine in his life. Never done real work. Just waltzed in with his MBA and started telling people how to do their jobs. I'm taking Sarah to Paris next month, Derek said, gesturing to his wife. She stood beside him in an expensive black dress, looking uncomfortable. Celebrating the sale. First class, the Ritz, might stay a month. My father's best friend, Tom Chen, stood near the door. He was looking at the floor, wouldn't meet my eyes. They all believed it, that I was just the charity case, the stepson, the kid who'd been kept around out of pity. I pulled out my phone. Derek noticed. His smile widened. What are you doing? Calling an Uber? Need a ride home to your apartment? Oh, wait. He turned to the crowd. Jake's been living in Dad's rental property rent-free for 3 years. That's ending too, by the way, a few people whispered. I opened my voice memos app, the recording from 3 weeks ago, the one my father had emailed me the day before he went to the hospital for what we thought was a routine procedure. Subject line, in case something happens. I'd listened to it 17 times in the last 4 days. Just listen, I said. My voice came out steady, calmer than I felt. Derek's smile faltered. Listen to what? I pressed play. My father's voice filled the room, weak, tired, but clear. Jake, if you're listening to this, I'm probably gone. The room went dead silent. The will Derek and Carol have been showing people is fake. They forged it. I found out 2 weeks ago when I went to review my estate documents with Tom Chen and discovered someone had filed a fraudulent update. Derek's face went white. People started pulling out their phones, recording. My real will is with Thomas Chen at Chen & Associates, not the fake one Carol filed with some attorney she found in Sacramento. The business goes to you, son. Everything goes to you. The house, the investments, all of it. Carol made a sound like a wounded animal. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you in person. Carol's been monitoring everything. My phone, my computer, my mail. I only found out about the forgery because Tom called me directly at work. But Tom has all the proof. The original will from 2019, the forensic document analysis, the paper trail showing what they did. Derek tried to speak. Nothing came out. I've already filed a police report. Detective Sarah Martinez at San Francisco PD Fraud Division. She's been building a case for the last 10 days. By the time you hear this, there should be enough evidence for arrests. Sarah, Derek's wife, stepped away from him. What is he talking about? I love you, Jake. You're the only real family I ever had. You're my son. Not by blood, but by choice, by work, by everything that matters. Don't let them take what's yours. The recording ended. Silence. 60 people staring at Derek, at Carol, at me. Sarah's voice cut through the quiet. Derek, what is he talking about? What will? It's fake, Derek said. His voice cracked. That recording is fake. Jake made that. Voice AI or something. He's trying to steal. I'm Thomas Chen, a voice said from near the door. Tom stepped forward, pulled a folder from his briefcase, the same briefcase he'd been carrying when he arrived. The one I'd assumed was full of condolence cards. I'm the attorney who's held Richard Morrison's will since 2019, estate planning specialist, 23 years at the bar. He held up the folder. This is the original will. Signed, witnessed, notarized. It names Jake Morrison as sole beneficiary. Everything. The business, the house, the investment accounts, the life insurance. Carol moved toward the exit. Tom stepped in front of the door. I wouldn't do that, Carol. You're lying, Derek said, louder now, desperate. You're both lying. My mother is Dad's wife. I'm his stepson. We have rights. You have the right to remain silent, a woman's voice said. Detective Sarah Martinez walked in from the hallway, badge on her belt. Two uniformed officers behind her, late 30s, sharp eyes, the kind of cop who'd seen everything. 15 years with SFPD Fraud and Forgery Division, she said, walking toward Derek and Carol. We've been investigating this case for 2 weeks. Richard Morrison filed a detailed report before his death. Suspected will forgery, identity theft, and fraud. Sarah was screaming now at Derek. You told me the business was yours. You said we were rich. You said we could buy a house in Marin. I quit my job. Shut up, Derek hissed. Don't tell me to shut up. Sarah shoved him hard. Did you forge a will? Did you? Did you lie to me? We needed the money, Carol said. She was crying now, mascara running down her face. Derek's student loans, the credit cards, the mortgage on my condo. Richard was going to leave us with nothing. He was going to leave you exactly what you deserved, Tom said coldly, which was nothing. You married him 6 years ago. You're entitled to spousal support under California law. That's it. Derek looked around the room, at all the phones recording, at his wife screaming, at his mother sobbing, at the cops moving toward him, at me, pure hatred in his eyes. You set this up, he said. I didn't do anything, I said. You did it yourself. Detective Martinez pulled out handcuffs. Derek Morrison, you're under arrest for forgery, fraud, and conspiracy to commit fraud. You have the right to remain silent. No. Derek backed away. Wait, we can work this out. We can. Carol Morrison, the second officer said, moving toward her. You're also under arrest. I didn't do anything, Carol shrieked. It was Derek's idea. He said we deserved it. He said Richard owed us. Mom! Derek's voice cracked. Shut up. Don't say anything. But Carol kept talking, panicking. He forged the signature. He had someone create a fake notary stamp. I just filed the paperwork. I didn't know it was illegal. The officer put handcuffs on her, on both of them, right there in the funeral home, in front of 60 people, all recording. Sarah was crying now. I can't believe this. I can't believe you did this to me. Sarah, please. Derek tried to reach for her with his cuffed hands. I did this for us. For our future. You did this because you're a selfish, lying piece of shit, she said. Then she looked at the detective. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow, and I want it on record that I knew nothing about this. Detective Martinez nodded. We'll need a statement from you. They walked Derek and Carol toward the door, past all the employees, past all the business partners, past everyone who'd been nodding along 5 minutes ago when Derek said I was just the charity case. Derek looked back at me one last time. You're going to regret this. No, I said. You are. The day after my mother died, I was 10 years old and my father sat me down in his workshop. Your mom was the best person I ever knew, he said. His eyes were red. He hadn't slept in 3 days. She made me want to be better, to build something real. He showed me the machine parts he was working on. Precision components for industrial equipment. This business, this is going to be yours someday. Not because you're my son, but because you'll earn it. You'll learn it. You'll make it better than I ever could. I promise, I'd said. He'd kept his word, taught me everything. Let me start at the bottom. Made me prove myself. I'd kept mine too. I learned every machine, every process, every client, every contract. By the time I was 23, I was operations manager. The employees respected me. The clients trusted me. The business was growing. Then Carol came along. My father met her at a charity fundraiser. She was 51, attractive, well-dressed. She laughed at his jokes, told him he deserved happiness after being alone for so long. They were married 6 months later. She moved into our house, the house my mother had picked out, the house I'd grown up in, with her son Derek. Derek was 27 then, fresh out of business school, no job lined up, living with his mother. Just until he gets on his feet, Carol said. My father gave him a job at Morrison Manufacturing, assistant to the operations manager. He can learn from Jake. Derek lasted 3 weeks before he started undermining me, telling Dad that I was resistant to change, that I didn't understand modern business practices, that I was stuck in old ways of thinking. Carol backed him up. Derek has fresh ideas, Richard. You should listen to him. My father started listening. 6 months later, Derek was Director of Business Development, a position that didn't exist before, making $80,000 a year. A year after that, he was VP of Strategic Operations, making 6 figures. He'd never worked a machine, never met with a client, never did anything except create PowerPoints and talk about synergies and optimization. But Carol whispered in Dad's ear every night, and Dad started to change, started to doubt me, started to listen to Derek's ideas about restructuring and modernizing. Maybe we should bring in outside management, Derek suggested in a meeting 6 months ago. Someone with real business experience. Jake has real experience, my father said. He's been running operations for 3 years. Operations isn't strategy, Dad. Derek always called him Dad. Made my skin crawl. We need someone who understands markets, growth, acquisition potential. Carol nodded from her seat at the conference table. She'd started attending meetings even though she didn't work for the company. Derek's right, Richard. The business needs fresh leadership. I'd seen it happening. The slow erosion, the careful poisoning of my father's confidence in me. But I didn't know about the will until 3 weeks ago. My father went in for what was supposed to be a routine cardiac procedure, stent placement, in and out same day. Something went wrong. Complications, infection, emergency surgery. He was in ICU for 6 days. Carol controlled all the visiting. He's too weak. He needs rest. I was allowed in for 10 minutes a day. On day 4, he grabbed my hand. Tom Chen, call him. Tell him to come. Don't tell Carol. I called from the hospital parking lot. Tom arrived 30 minutes later, went in alone. He came out 20 minutes later, face gray. We need to talk. Not here. We went to his office. That's when he told me. 2 weeks before the surgery, my father had come to review his estate documents. Annual review, something they did every year. Tom pulled out the will on file. It wasn't the one he'd drafted in 2019. Different paper, different signature, different notary. It left everything to Derek. Your father didn't write this, Tom said. I know his signature. This isn't it. They'd ordered forensic analysis. Confirmed forgery. The notary stamp is fake, the document examiner said. Wrong format for California. Wrong date encoding. My father had filed a police report the next day. Gave Detective Martinez everything. The real will, the fake will, timeline, access logs showing when Carol and Derek had been in his home office. We were building a case, Tom said. Your father wanted enough evidence that they couldn't wriggle out of it. That's why he didn't confront them. Why didn't he tell me? He was going to, after the procedure. He thought it would be quick, easy, then he'd deal with this. But he wanted to protect you. If Carol knew you knew, she might have done something desperate. Tom handed me a flash drive. He recorded this message 2 days before the surgery, just in case. He said if anything happened to him, you needed to hear it. You needed to know the truth. I'd listen to it in my car. Listen to my father's voice explaining everything. The forgery, the investigation, the real will, his love for me, his faith in me. I'd sat in that parking lot for 2 hours, crying. Then my father died. Post-surgical infection, sepsis, multiple organ failure, gone in 18 hours. Carol had been at his bedside, playing the grieving widow. She'd smiled at me when the doctor pronounced the time of death. Actually smiled. I'm so sorry for your loss, Jake. This must be so hard for you. The funeral arrangements happened fast. Carol took over everything. Picked the funeral home. Picked the casket. Picked the flowers. Richard would have wanted it this way, she kept saying. Derek helped, playing the dutiful stepson. They'd both been so confident, so sure they'd gotten away with it. At the reception, Derek had started his performance. The magnanimous heir, the successful businessman taking over the family legacy. He hadn't known Tom was there, hadn't known Detective Martinez was waiting in the hallway, hadn't known I had the recording, and now everyone knew. Detective Martinez called me the next morning at 8:47 a.m. Mr. Morrison, this is Detective Martinez. I wanted to update you on the case. Okay, Derek Morrison and Carol Morrison were arraigned this morning. They're each being charged with forgery, fraud, conspiracy, and identity theft. Carol is also being charged with abuse of fiduciary duty as your father's spouse. What does that mean? Prison time. Significant prison time. The DA is pushing for maximum sentences. Forgery alone carries up to 3 years. Fraud adds another 5. With multiple counts and the dollar amounts involved, we're talking $2.5 million in assets they tried to steal. They're looking at 8 to 12 years each. My stomach dropped. That long? Your father's death complicates things. They can't argue he would have wanted this or that he approved. And the fact that they continued with the scheme even after he filed the police report. Even after he died, she paused. It shows intent, malice, planning. What happens now? There'll be a preliminary hearing. You'll need to testify about the business, the assets, the family dynamics. Tom Chen will testify about the real will. We have the forensic document analysis. We have your father's police report. We have the recording. Is the recording admissible? Yes. Your father made it of his own free will, explaining his own estate plans. That's allowed. And it establishes his state of mind, his intentions, his awareness of the fraud. When's the hearing? 2 weeks, February 14th, Valentine's Day. How fitting. One more thing, Detective Martinez said. Sarah Morrison, Derek's wife, came in yesterday, gave a statement. She says Derek told her about the inheritance 6 months ago, said it was already his, that his mother had worked it out with your father. She says she believed him. Is she being charged? No. She didn't participate in the forgery, didn't know about the fake will. She's a victim too, in a way. She married someone based on lies. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Tom Chen called me that afternoon. Jake, I need you to come to the office. We need to go through everything. I drove to his office in the financial district. 23rd floor, view of the bay. Tom sat me down, pulled out a thick folder. This is your father's estate. Everything. He walked me through it. Morrison Manufacturing, valued at $12 million. Annual revenue, $8 million. Profit margin, 18%. 63 employees. The house in in Presidio Heights, worth $4.2 million. Investment accounts, $2.8 million. Life insurance, $1 million. Total estate value, $20.2 million. This all goes to you, Tom said, per your father's actual will, the one he wrote in 2019 and updated in 2021. Derek said the business was only worth $2.5 million. He was lying, or he's an idiot. Probably both. Tom slid over an appraisal document. This is from a professional business valuation firm. Completed last year. Morrison Manufacturing is worth between 11 and 13 million, depending on market conditions. Derek was planning to sell it for 2.5 and pocket the difference. Could he have done that? If the fake will had stood, yes, he'd have had legal ownership. He could have sold it for whatever he wanted. The courts wouldn't have known about the real valuation unless someone challenged him. My hands clenched. He would have stolen $10 million, at least, and that's just the business. The house, the investments, the insurance. He and Carol would have walked away with everything. Tom leaned back in his chair. Your father knew. That's why he acted fast, why he filed the police report, why he recorded that message. He knew if something happened to him, Carol and Derek would move immediately. They'd file the fake will, take control of everything, and by the time anyone questioned it, the assets would be gone. What happens to Carol? She was his wife. Under California law, she's entitled to spousal support, probably around $30,000 a year for 10 years, given the length of the marriage and the estate value. That's it. She doesn't get the house. She doesn't get the business. She doesn't get the investments. What about Derek? Derek gets nothing. He's not a biological child. He wasn't adopted. He has no legal claim to anything. Tom smiled. Cold. Professional. They tried to steal $20 million. Instead, they're going to prison and getting nothing. The preliminary hearing was packed. Courtroom 4B, Superior Court of San Francisco. Judge Michael Torres presiding. 26 years on the bench. Carol and Derek sat at the defense table with their attorneys, public defenders. They'd already blown through their savings on Derek's student loans and Carol's condo mortgage. The prosecution called me first. Mr. Morrison, can you describe your relationship with your father? I told them everything. Growing up in the business, learning the machines, working my way up. My father's promise that the business would be mine. Did your father ever express doubts about your ability to run the company? No, the opposite. He told me constantly that I was the only person he trusted with it. Did he have a good relationship with Carol and Derek Morrison? No, it deteriorated after they moved in, especially in the last year. Did he ever discuss his estate plans with you? Yes, multiple times. He said everything would go to me. The business, the house, everything. He said I'd earned it. Derek's lawyer tried to cross-examine, suggested my father had been manipulating me, that I'd pressured him. Tom Chen's testimony destroyed that narrative. He'd known my father for 15 years, had drafted multiple wills, had documentation of every conversation. Richard Morrison was clear and consistent, Tom said. Jake inherited everything. He never wavered on that. Not once. The forensic document examiner testified next. Dr. Patricia Okafor, 23 years in document analysis. The signature on the fraudulent will is a forgery. The pressure patterns are wrong. The pen strokes are hesitant. This was someone trying to copy Richard Morrison's signature, not Richard Morrison signing naturally. How certain are you? 100%. This is not Richard Morrison's signature. The notary stamp analysis was even more damning. This stamp doesn't match any registered notary in California, another expert testified. The format is wrong. The encoding is wrong. This was created specifically to forge this document. Then they played my father's recording. The entire courtroom heard his voice, explaining the fraud, explaining his love for me, explaining his real wishes. Carol sobbed. Derek stared at the table. Judge Torres listened without expression. When the recording ended, he looked at the defense attorneys. Does the defense have any evidence to present? Derek's lawyer stood. Your Honor, we believe there are questions about the recording's authenticity. The recording was authenticated by 3 independent experts. It matches Richard Morrison's voice, speech patterns, and vocabulary. It was created on his phone, backed up to his cloud account, and emailed from his account. Move on. Your Honor, we believe Carol Morrison acted in good faith, believing she was following her husband's wishes. She forged a will, created a fake notary stamp, filed fraudulent documents with the court. That's not good faith. That's premeditated fraud. Judge Torres looked at Carol and Derek. I'm binding both defendants over for trial. Bail is set at $500,000 each. Derek's face went white. Carol started crying harder. Neither of them had $500,000. They'd be staying in jail until trial. Sarah filed for divorce 3 days later, and I heard about it from Tom Chen. She's asking for nothing, he said. No spousal support, no community property. She just wants out. Smart. She also reached out to me, asked if she could speak with you. Why? She wants to apologize. I thought about it. Tell her no. You sure? I'm sure. She married Derek. She believed him. She quit her job based on his lies. That's not my problem. Tom nodded. Fair enough. 2 weeks later, the trial date was set. July 15th, 5 months away. Derek and Carol would sit in jail until then. Neither could make bail. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Carol's condo went into foreclosure. Derek's car got repossessed. Sarah moved back in with her parents in Sacramento. Everything they'd built on the promise of my father's money was crumbling. I took over Morrison Manufacturing in March, and the employees welcomed me back like I'd never left. We We knew something was wrong, Maria Santos, the shop floor supervisor, told me. 17 years with the company. Derek was trying to sell us out. We could feel it. What do you mean? He was bringing in consultants, asking about redundancies and optimization. That's code for layoffs. She shook her head. Your father built this place on loyalty. Derek would have gutted it and sold it for parts. I called an all-hands meeting my first day. 63 employees gathered in the main facility. I know the last few months have been chaotic, I said. I know there were questions about the future. I want you to know, this company isn't going anywhere. We're not selling. We're not downsizing. We're going to keep building what my father started. Applause. Actual applause. Anyone have questions? Marcus Chen, one of the senior machinists, raised his hand. 12 years with the company. What happened to Derek? Derek and his mother are facing fraud charges. They tried to forge my father's will. They're in jail awaiting trial. Silence. Then someone in the back started clapping. Then everyone was clapping. Not because they were happy about the fraud, but because Derek was gone. The trial started on July 15th, just like scheduled, and lasted 6 days. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence: the forged will, the fake notary stamp, the forensic analysis, my father's police report, the recording. Tom Chen testified. I testified. Detective Martinez testified. The defense tried to argue that Carol had been manipulated by Derek, that she didn't understand what she was doing. The prosecution showed emails between Carol and Derek planning the forgery, discussing how to copy my father's signature, where to file the fake will. This was a conspiracy, the prosecutor said. Two people working together to steal $20 million from a dying man's son. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts, both of them. Sentencing was 2 weeks later. Judge Torres looked at Carol and Derek with unconcealed disgust. You exploited a man's love for his family. You forged legal documents. You attempted to steal an entire estate, and you did it while Richard Morrison was dying in a hospital bed. He paused. Carol Morrison, you are sentenced to 8 years in state prison. Derek Morrison, you are sentenced to 10 years in state prison. Derek's shoulders sagged. Carol sobbed. Furthermore, Judge Torres continued, you are both ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $500,000 for legal fees, investigative costs, and emotional damages to Jake Morrison. The bailiff led them away. They didn't look back. I got a letter from Derek 2 months after sentencing, forwarded through Tom Chen's office. Jake, I know you won't believe this, but I'm sorry. I got caught up in something I couldn't control. Mom convinced me we deserved that money, that your dad owed us, that you'd gotten everything for years and it was our turn. I know that doesn't make it right. I know I hurt you. I know I hurt Dad. I just wanted you to know that I regret it. Every day. Derek, I read it once, then I shredded it. Morrison Manufacturing had its best year ever the following year, and I was standing in my father's old office, my office now, looking at the financial reports when Tom Chen called. Jake, I have some news. Yeah? Derek's appeal was denied. He's serving the full 10 years. Carol's appeal was also denied. Good. There's more. Sarah's divorce is final. She sent me a message to pass along to you. What's that? She said thank you for pressing charges, for not letting them get away with it. She said she's sorry she ever doubted you. I didn't respond. She also said Derek told her the truth a few weeks ago about how they planned everything, how they knew it was wrong, how they did it anyway because they thought they deserved your father's money more than you did. Does she want something? No, she just wanted you to know. Tell her I got her message. I hung up, stood at the window, looking out at the shop floor, the machines running, the employees working, the business my father built that I was keeping alive. I pulled out my phone, opened my voice memos, found the recording my father had made, listened to it one more time. You're the only real family I ever had. You're my son, not by blood, but by choice, by work, by everything that matters. Don't let them take what's yours. I closed the recording, went back to work. Derek and Carol are 3 years into their sentences now, and I heard Derek's up for parole review next year. He'll probably get denied. Forgery doesn't get you early release. Carol will serve at least 6, maybe 7. Sarah remarried last month, some accountant from Sacramento. I saw it on Facebook. She looks happy. Good for her. Morrison Manufacturing just signed a contract with a major aerospace company. $15 million over 3 years. Biggest deal in company history. My father would have been proud. I am too, because the night Derek stood in that funeral home and announced he was selling my father's business, he thought he'd won. He thought everyone believed him. But I had a recording, and his smile disappeared the moment my father's voice filled that room.